Welcome back to another episode of Cozypreneur. If a website redesign in your future, then definitely tune into this episode. We are joined by guest Carolyn Leasure. Carolyn is a website redesign expert, and she turns frustrating starter sites into sexy systems that work better for everyone. At Maypop Creative Studio, which she runs, she creates beautiful websites that do the heavy lifting because she believes that your brand and design and tech should work overtime for you, not you. Caroline calls the mountain of Charlottesville, Virginia, home, and when she's not constructing seamless sites for clients, she can be found playing Himalayan sound bowls for a meditation shortcut or splashing and whooping down the Rivanna River in an inner tube alongside her husband and 2 kids. She's also running the Get Your Site Together challenge, which I will be joining if you want to join me. There's more information inside this episode, but the link is in the show notes. So let's dive in. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do?
Yes, so my name is Carolyn Leasure. I am the founder and creative director and one-woman show at Maypop Creative Studio. And I am a website redesign expert. I create websites for my clients who are solopreneurs, service providers, coaches, consultants. And my goal is to create a website for them that charms the pants off visitors and works its butt off behind the scenes.
I love it. I've been thinking a lot about websites because I've been also promoting website copy right now, and I like to think about it as your digital storefront. Like, it's a sales tool, and it's really like if you imagine a brick and mortar, you're kind of walking into a store when you type in the URL or you click in from Google.
Yes, and I think that so many people view their website as another layer of social proof, which it is, but it's the most content heavy thing in your marketing toolbox. And it's oftentimes the way people will vet you, for sure. So it's like walking into your store, but it's also the paid employee. You pay for your website, it's a paid employee. It's the person at the front of the store who you need to be doing a lot of work for you. It should be doing a job, essentially. So yeah, I'm complete agreement. It's even, I get a lot of work through referrals. A lot of my clients get work through referrals. And so it's tempting to think of your website as not super important because people already know who you are. But there are people who are getting referred to you that do not reach out to you after they go to your website. So those are the people that we want to, be talking to on your website.
Yes. So you said that you do website redesign. So why do you focus on redesigning versus first time new business, new website?
That is a great question. I think that for a lot of business owners, especially, again, solopreneurs, service providers, coaches, consultants, the website journey looks a lot like you're brand new. You get something up quickly. You don't exactly know which offers or services are going to be your best. You haven't gotten to refine them yet. Your brand is everything you imagine it might be. But then once you get a couple years in, your offers have been refined a little bit. They've changed. Your messaging and branding has evolved into something a little bit different. You get more clarity, essentially, on what exactly you're doing. And that's a natural process. There's no way around that, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I find that that's oftentimes where people get stuck when they have to redesign their website because they're busy. They have clients. It's not like when they're brand new and they're just oh, let me spend some time messing around my website. It's a better use of their time to hire out at that point. They might need some systems connected to their website, that business hub, essentially, that they didn't need when they were first starting out. And it requires a little bit more tech knowledge, a little bit more design knowledge. And again, the time element. It makes more use financially to hire someone at that point than to do your own. And I do think that for businesses just starting out, it's often a great idea to DIY. Now, it depends. If you're doing e-commerce, maybe not. Maybe you want to hire somebody. Or if you're a tech startup that's got all this venture capital. Okay, sure. But I'm talking about clients that I work with, which are solopreneurs, service providers, coaches, consultants, where it makes sense your first round to do a minimum viable option of your website. And then once you have more data about who you're working with, what they want, how you want to provide your services, what your processes are, your messaging and positioning, what systems you need set up in the back end, all of those kinds of things, it really makes sense to work with a designer. And that's also the like inflection point with my clients that I really like digging into. Like it kind of lights me up, is being like, okay, how can we make it so that your website is working overtime instead of you working overtime? Because that's what, happens at that point when you're booked and busy. You're working overtime and like you're spending more time in the back end than you really need to be.
I say the same thing to my clients. Like if I'm writing launch copy and it's like they're like, this is a brand new course, and I'm like, okay, go sell it first and like get some social proof and get a few runs out of the way before you invest all of this money in your message and your copywriting, because those first few like 3-4 times of running something, you change a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's so true. So I've always done for you work, and I launched my first done with you group program, small group program last winter, and I'm actually in the process of launching it again. And I spent so much time writing copy for my sales page and all my emails and like all this stuff. And now that I've gone through it and I have the data of people who've done the program, and I also just did this big like audience research project, I feel like it was important that I had good copy, but like I could have spent like half as much time on it, because now I'm redoing all of it all over again, which I need to, like that's the way that people know what you're up to, is by reading your copy and by reading your emails and going to your website and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Say somebody's been in business for a while. What are some of the signs that it's the right time to redesign their website?
I think there are a couple different signs, and some of them you might feel some but not others, right? You might see a couple of the signs, or you might see everything. So one of the biggest signs that I see, it's like a gut feeling when you are sharing your website with someone and there's a caveat. So this is actually happening to me right now because I'm planning to redesign my website in September, or in a couple of months. So you say like, oh, here's, the page for this service, but like I haven't updated it in a while. So like this is not, like start saying like all these disclaimers of like, this is not up to date, or like I'm redoing my brand, or like don't look at this page. That's the biggest sign that I see. And so that's more of like the feeling that you have inside when you're sharing your website, instead of like being eager and excited and proud. You're like, maybe don't go there, or even sending them somewhere else, right? Like sending them to a Google Docs sales page, or sending them when you have a website, or sending them to your social media when you have a website. So that's like one of the biggest signs I see. Some smaller signs where you're like, I think I might need to, but I'm not quite sure, is if your offers and your services on your website are no longer accurate. So if there's things that you don't offer that are there, things that you do offer that aren't there, or the specifics of how you offer them are outdated. Like that's a huge sign. Another sign is if your messaging, whether it's visual or written, no longer matches the messaging in the rest of your ecosystem. So on social media, or your email marketing, or even just how you talk about what you do and who you help and whatnot. Like if that is a mismatch on your website, that is a really big sign. And it's something that as business owners, we think of like, oh, okay, like it's not the biggest deal, I can just put it off. But if someone's getting an impression of you and your business in one place, and then they go to your website and it's something very, very different, that instead of minimizing the trust gap, it like maximizes the trust gap. So that's like a big sign as well. Those are two big signs. And then I would say the third sign is if it's not converting, if whether it ever did before or not, like if you're not getting people submitting inquiries, joining your programs, booking discovery calls, even just signing up to your email list from your website, any of those things, then it's definitely time to look at redesign. And there's one more. And this one has nothing to do with front facing. This is not to do with people visiting your site at all. This is to do with the back end of your business. If you are manually taking information from your website that people submit and putting it into other places, that is a signal that you need some systems connected to your website. So for booking calls, if you're doing it all manually back and forth, you might need to add like Acuity or Calendly or something like that. Taking payment. If people are contacting you and then you're manually taking payment, that is something that we can connect to your website. Getting people to sign up to stay interested in your offerings. Having some systems there. Delivering anything, essentially. You want to have some systems attached to it so that instead of spending your time manually transferring information from one place to another, you can actually serve your clients, which is what everyone goes into business to do, to support themselves and to serve other people, and not support your website. That's not the goal.
I'm nodding along, and I'm definitely guilty of doing the sales page on a Google Doc because I'm like, I can write copy for days, but then when it comes to design, I'm just like, my brain does not work in this way. And so I'm like, it just looks better on a Google Doc because I don't have the time or capacity to put
Yes.
it into a really nice looking sales page.
I mean, that makes total sense. That's like 95% of people that I work with. And that's actually something that's really important to me when I do design sites is a big part of my design perspective is making sure that my clients can easily edit things, change things, update things, create new sales pages when we're done. And so I have like design systems that I use in their sites to accomplish that. So whether that is creating saved sections that they can reuse, doing education at the end so they know how to update it. I have like a mini tutorial library in the back end of all my client sites showing them, okay, for this custom coded thing that we did, here's how you update, the toggle or whatever it might be. Because we do a lot of custom design and I want it to be easy for them to manage on their own afterwards. That's very, very important for me and for my clients.
I love that. And the other thing that you said too about the systems like ties back into what we were talking about earlier with the like having to like vomit all your ideas out and then dial them back in. I've been doing that the past few years of business where I feel like I've tried so many different things and now it's like about simplifying and dialing it back, but it's like you can't build those systems until you've gone through the phase of like mucking through all of the crap and then deciding, oh, this is the system that actually works for me and my clients and this is what actually makes sense.
Yes, I am guilty of building the system before having like the proven results. Like I love systems. I don't design them for other people in the beyond, website systems, but in the past, if I was going to launch something new, I would build out everything, like the whole system for it, process, delivery, everything, and then like when I wanted to tweak it, it was like, okay, now I have to like find all the different places that this system does this thing and fix it or change the wording here or change the automation here, whatever. So I've gotten a lot better at that of like when I have something new, again, minimum viable product, do it like quick and dirty. And then once I have done it like a couple times, go back and be like, okay, now what's like the best option for my clients now that they've done it a couple times, now that I've done it a couple times, what's the better option for me? And then refining that because anything you're offering people in your business, any service, any offer, whatever, I believe should work just as well for the business owner as it does for the client. Like both of those are equally important in the equation so that we don't get burnt out, so that we love our work, so that we can actually help people. And then, reducing friction for clients is the number one thing. Any way you can reduce friction, we reduce friction. But yeah, like you're saying, like if you just have all these systems built out and then it actually makes it harder for them rather than easier, then yeah, you have to kind of like pull back and be like, where can I trim this down a little bit? How can I make this easier and simpler for me and them?
Right. Yeah. Your website should be making people more confident about working with you, not making them more hesitant to work with you. Like you don't want to have to do damage control over your website.
I think people think of their sites as like, if it looks good, then it's good enough. And like, to your point, it has to be easy for them to continue the process with you. It has to look good. That's the bare minimum, right? The site that looks good is the bare minimum. That's the floor. Social proof in that sense is the floor. But like what makes people want to work with you is like how seamless is the process? Not the only thing, but as far as your systems go, how seamless is the process is really helpful.
I know, even things like systems wise that I didn't think about before, like creating URLs and like what URL am I going to use for my freebie? And then I'm like sharing it all over the place. And then I'm like, I want to change this. And I'm like, well, no, I can't change it because all of these different people have this link now.
Yep.
And so like tiny things like that you don't even really think about, like really impact like one, the website experience and then two, your customer journey of how people are interacting with your brand.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I have a million URL redirects set up on my site for that exact for service pages that I just like threw up a URL. I was like, oh, that's hard for me to remember, or like that's not SEO, that's not going to be optimized for search. So like I have a lot of redirects in my back end. I'm like, don't use this name anymore, use this one. Moving them along. It's a mess back there.
That's so funny. So what questions do you get most often from people who are ready to start their website design or redesign, but they are getting stuck?
I think that's a great question. And I think that the reason that people get stuck is because the process usually looks like this, right? You're ready to redesign your site. You're really excited. And the fun stuff, even though it might be challenging, the fun stuff is like fonts and colors and templates and designers. And like people get really caught up in the idea of what their site's going to look like, which is important. But that's like the frosting on the cake. And so I think people usually get stuck when if you're like baking a cake and you started with the frosting and you're like, oh shoot, where do I put this? Like you need to actually have like the baking soda and the flour and the eggs and like all the structural ingredients to build the foundation before you can put on the frosting. Otherwise it just like splat, it falls down. So that's kind of where they get stuck. It just like falls on your countertop, right? So I think that there is the unsexy side of website prep. And it's everything that you have to do before you hire a copywriter, before you hire a designer, before you buy a template, before you do a brand photo shoot, any of those things. And that's where I think people don't know to look. That in my experience with my clients, when they come to me and they're ready to start, they're like ready to go into like all the fun, exciting stuff, but they haven't necessarily nailed down the foundations of their business. So like who exactly they're talking to, their target audience, what you do. Like if you can't say what you do in 2 sentences, it's going to be complicated for your target audience as well. And not to say that you have to use those 2 sentences everywhere you go, but you need to be able to say it. And as a copywriter, I'm sure that like you feel this as strongly as I do. I think another thing people struggle with is they don't know what to put on their site. But when you have the foundations clearly defined, it's a lot easier. So for example, if you know how you work with people, but you can't explain the full process. So getting down somewhere, written down, what's the offer? What's the service? How does it get delivered? How does someone book it with you? How does it get delivered? What are the logistics? All of the like nitty gritty details of, I guess, like your system, like we're talking about, right? Like the system of, buying and delivering. People come to me and don't have all that worked out. And your website visitors need that in order to hire you, to book with you. In my mind, I picture it like a little like pond, and there's a frog on one side and he wants to get to the other side, but has no idea how. So just kind of like leaves. But if there's like a bunch of little lily pads in a path, it's like, oh, he can just hop from one lily pad to the next. So when site visitors come and they're ready, like they want to work with you and they see your service or your offer and they're like, oh, what I do is I submit this inquiry and then they're going to email you back within a couple of days. And then I'm going to book a call. And then if I like it, I'm going to pay, and I'm going to pay 40% now. And I'm going to pay 60% later. And then after that, this is like, if they can see all of those things, it's a lot easier to take that next step, because that frog is not jumping into the pond with no step in front of it, unless it's really hot outside. But
I love this metaphor so much, because I think one of the things that my clients struggle with, especially the people who do done with you copy with me, is they're really detail oriented. And so they will be like, here's the system and here's everything that's included. But they're like almost jumping to the other side of the pond without giving the reader a starting point. And so it's like they're jumping to the end without being like, hey, actually, this is where you are right now, and building those lily pads. They're just like, here's where you can go later.
mm-hmm.
And so it's like those steps are really, really important. I really like that visual.
Yeah, people are not going to take a first step unless they know what they're stepping onto. What's the next thing that's going to happen in this whole process? So I would say those, yeah. 2 more things that people get stuck on when they are redesigning that they don't know to think about. One, which is the most important to me, and I can't believe I didn't mention this, the most important to me is, what is the job of your site? So I talked about you pay your site has a salary. What is its job? What does it do for your business? And so again, people will talk about how it looks, and like they want it to like provide social proof, essentially. It's another way of saying like what it looks like. But that's, again, the bare minimum. Your site should do something, and that means people book a call, a discovery call. That's something your site's job, right? That's a job we're assigning your site. You should let people book a discovery call. People should join your program. That's its job. People should just just contact you. That can be a job, but like it needs to be doing something. And I also really like assigning a secondary job, because if you're asking people to make this big commitment, that's like asking them to get married. And maybe they're just visiting your site for the first time. They're like, I'm not ready to get married. Slow your roll. So you're like, okay, well, how about we just go on a date? And so getting them to sign up for your email newsletters, like going on a date, or, subscribe to your podcast, whatever it might be, like that's the date. So having a secondary job is really important too. And this is something that people don't think about ever before they start their websites, but it's also really important, just like your offers, is gathering all your social proof. So most people I work with have testimonials hiding in lots of different places that they didn't think to look, or they have case studies that they want to put on their website but they don't have written yet, or they have whatever it might be, they have tons of social proof. But when we do onboarding and I ask for their testimonials, they only have like 3 because they haven't gone and looked for all the rest. And now it's like, well, your project's starting. So they feel like, oh, let me just grab these ones. But gathering all of those is important, because if you have on your website like, oh, Stacy says, work with Carolyn, she's the best. Like, that's not going to convert anybody. That's not going to, a testimonial, social proof, case studies, all these things work by reflecting someone back to them so they can see themselves, and then they can see what end results are possible. So using all that social proof strategically on your site is important, but you can't do it if it's like in your DMs, in your email, in your Google Drive, in like a call transcript, whatever it might be. So gathering all that stuff is like super important as well. And unless you've designed a lot of sites, or written a lot of sites, you're probably not thinking about that, which makes total sense.
I know. What I've started doing is just sending people to like my Google, because I'm like, then they're all in one place. And then I don't have to think about it. I'm like, please leave me a review on Google.
I have asked that and I haven't gotten a lot of takers, but I do use Senja, which is like a testimonial app, and people have been using that, which is really nice. And I do have a website prep kit called Trail Mix that people can get from my site, and it has like a whole testimonial organization system in there. It has my template for like questions to ask to get a conversion worthy testimonial, but then it also has a place that you can store everything, and you can like essentially code it. It's in Notion. So you say like, okay, this one is for this service. This one talks about this element of what I do, so that when you need to find testimonials, you can really go back quickly and like grab stuff from it, which is what I use in my own business. And it's really helpful because people will do like, they'll send me like a quick little note in the middle of a project saying like, oh my God, blah, 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 like this is great. Or I did a challenge and everyone in Slack was like DMing me all these great things, which is wonderful. And then I need to put them somewhere so that I don't forget them. So having somewhere to organize them is really good. Really helpful.
Look at you with your system.
I know, like I feel like sometimes I went into I'm a systems girly. Like I should be doing systems, but I know not for anyone else. Like I do it because I am neurodivergent and I am a parent and I have chronic illness. So like if I do not have this stuff set up for myself, it's just gonna fall apart. But someone else's brain, like, no, thank you. I don't want to get in there.
Yeah, no, this is my entire like business brain lives in ClickUp, and every single day I'm like, what am I doing today? And I literally just like click and there's my to-do list. And if I need to change it, I'll change it. But otherwise, like I don't function. I'll do nothing.
Past Stacy is looking out for future Stacy. That's how I always been. That's how I describe it to one of my ADHD children, where it's like future Carolyn's gonna be mad if I don't do this. I want to make sure future Carolyn's happy because I'm also her. So let's make sure she's happy. I got to look into ClickUp. I use Notion for like everything. And I know some people are like Airtable, ClickUp, Notion, like everyone has their own system and like, but I've heard a lot of good things about ClickUp. But yeah, same. I open Notion every day and I'm like, what am I doing today? What's my schedule?
Yeah, I mean, if it works for you, then keep the system. That's another thing that I talk about with my clients all the time is like, you have to figure out like the marketing that makes sense for you and your brain and your capacity and what actually is working for you right now, because it's not going to be the same as what's working for me or somebody else. So.
Yeah, I actually had a discovery call yesterday and I feel like every question she asked me, I was like, it depends. And it's because to me, it depends on your capacity and your goals. And that's one of the benefits of working with someone like you or like me is like we can say like, okay, you're like, how do I approach this thing? How do I approach this marketing thing? How do I approach this? What do I do for this on my website? She was wanting to know about taking something that had been a PDF that she sent and like if we're going to put it on her site as like an actual page. I'm like, well, it depends. Where do you feel comfortable updating it? How does your audience want to receive it? How often are you going to be changing it? Do you want it to be scannable by, search engines and chat, LLMs? Like, so it always depends. And it depends on your capacity and your systems and what works for you and all those kinds of things. So in any area, I'm with you on that one. Figuring out like your goals, your capacity, like all that, then I can make like super informed recommendations, super informed recommendations for everyone once we know that stuff.
Exactly. So you have a challenge coming up. Do you want to tell us about it?
I do. I'm so excited. This is the second time I'm running this free challenge. It's called the Get Your Site Together Challenge. You can call it the Get Your Shit Together Challenge, whichever you prefer. And it's 5 days. It's running from August 3rd to August 7th, 2026. And if for some reason you're listening to this episode way down the line, I'm going to run it again in the winter and I'll run it again next summer. So you're welcome to check it out then. And we're basically spending 5 days doing the foundational prep that I talked about. So when I talk to clients on discovery calls, when I was, just have coffee chats with people, everyone thinks that they can't start their website redesign until they have everything figured out. But the challenge of that is that you're never going to have it all figured out unless you do it. So actually doing the prep work is what gives you the clarity and what lets you figure all this stuff out. So we spent 5 days. It's a Slack-based asynchronous challenge where every day I send an email and drop a voice note into Slack, and you have a Notion dashboard that I build out for you that has all of the information you need to actually do the thing. So one thing every day should take about half an hour. You could do a deep dive and spend 2 hours on it if you want, but it's designed to be done quickly. You do your brand bio, you clarify all of the things about the offers we were talking about in services, we figure out your site's job, you collect all of your social proof, we nail down your target audience. So we do all those 5 things. I said them in the wrong order just now, but those are the 5 things we do, and we do it together in a group. So you're getting feedback from me when you submit. So you submit your brand bio and you'll get feedback from me, but the cool thing is that we have so many different kinds of service providers and coaches in there that you get feedback from other people too. So last year we had a copywriter who gave great feedback to people on their brand bio, or we have like an offer strategist who's giving feedback to you on your offer. So that is like a really cool side kind of component, but it's hopefully fun and enjoyable. Like we have a good time in Slack, but you also like walk away from it ready to hire a copywriter, hire a designer, pick a template, like any of the things that you need to kind of get going on your site. And if it's a good option for you, right afterwards, I open up the doors for my Done With You small group website build program, where you write, build, and launch your website over 14 weeks. I have a copywriter who comes in. I have an SEO expert who comes in. We do visuals, brand design, mini brand design, all those types of things over 14 weeks. So that's like starts right afterwards. So if you do the challenge, it really gets you in a good position to actually tackle your website instead of like stopping and starting. So yeah, if you've been trying to redesign your site since like January, maybe it's a good thing to do.
I think I have to join. Redesigning my website has been on my to-do list for like over a year at this point.
That's like basic. That's everyone though. Everyone I talk to is like, yes, this has been on my to-do list forever. But the thing is, you can't start because the foundational stuff is not like clearly laid out in front of you in one spot where you're like, oh yeah, now I know if I do work with a brand designer, like now I have all this stuff to give them about who I am, what I do, who I help, like how I help them. It's the who, what, where, when, why of websites.
The 5 W's.
Yeah, so that's August 3rd through 7th, 2026.
That's awesome. And yeah, it really does just like set you up for success. Like if you decide to hire a designer or a copywriter, like if everybody came to me, all of my clients with all of that information, it would just be so great. It would make the process so smooth.
I mean, that's like, for a lot of the clients that I work with, onboarding is the hardest part because they haven't done this work. And once I take over, like it's easy because I'm doing all the work, which is great. But that onboarding, they're like, I spent more time on this than I wanted to. And it's because they're, building the plane while they're flying it. You know what I mean? I ask them for their keywords and they're like, well, they don't necessarily know even how to, and I give them information for keyword research if they're not working with SEO specialist. But if you don't know who your audience is, you don't know necessarily what they're looking for. If you don't know the words that they're using, or if you don't know, there's like lots of different examples. But yeah, so the onboarding can take a long time with any, service provider that's doing marketing in your business if you don't have these things like just like at the ready to give someone.
And I'll offer one piece of advice too. Like if you're feeling stuck on those things, like the best thing to do is to talk to your clients and really listen to what they're saying about like why they chose to work with you and what they were struggling with and what they got out of it, because that's going to give you the information that you're looking for. Because I think sometimes we're so close to our business that we really struggle to like articulate how we help people, what it is that we do. And so sometimes like hearing somebody else mirror it back to you is just like super helpful.
Yes, I just did this big audience research project, both talking to previous clients and talking to people who were in my ideal audience. And I think I did a survey of about 100 people and I did interviews with, I think, 15 to 20 people just to understand like what problems they're having, what kind of solutions they're looking for, like the words that they use. And I will put a little plug in for Trail Mix because I do have a voice of client module in there. It's my market research interview questions and then a database to keep everything organized. And it will teach you how to, like, again, I'm using the word code your answers, but basically, one field says like the problems that they have and you assign the problem, but that way you can go back and look really quickly and be like, oh, what are the overall themes that we're dealing with here? But yeah, I completely agree. I think that most people who come to work with me have not spoken directly to their audience in this way. And I want to create websites for people that work for like at least 5 years, right? And this foundational work is what makes it so that you don't have to redesign in a year. And that voice of client that you're talking about makes all the difference in terms of the conversion part and ensuring that your website's going to work for you for a long time. Super key.
It's true. That's like my secret sauce for writing really great websites. So I will link everything below in the show notes, but where can people find you if they want to connect?
So my website is maypopcreativestudio.com. I have a page there that you can sign up for my challenge and you can get Trail Mix. And I also have a quiz there if you want to figure out your next step in moving forward in your website project. That is maypopcreativestudio.com/freebies. I am not super active on social media because it is not good for my brain, but you can find me on Threads where I mostly lurk and then occasionally post for 5 days in a row without stop and then go away for 2 months. So you can find me on Threads at Maypop Creative Studio. And I hope to see you in my challenge, Stacey. And
I will be there. So everybody else come too. We'll hang out.
Yeah, I've gotten really good feedback. And I think my goal is to like help a lot of people take the first step into the pond on the lily pad.
Thank you, Carolyn. And thank you so much for coming on Cozypreneur. This was so fun.
It was great. I really appreciate you having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Cozypreneur. If you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your biz bestie about it. And otherwise, I'll see you inside Carolyn's challenge. Until next time.